In the previous Excel spreadsheet that I created, it was for weekly pay periods, and this one is for biweekly pay periods. So we're using two different colors to differentiate the pay weeks, or rather the pay periods. This particular pay period started on Sunday, July 28th, and it ended on Saturday, August 10th. The pay periods start on Sundays and end on Saturdays. Everybody doesn't have that same pay period, so if your pay period starts on a Monday, make sure that you have Monday as the first column and then take it all the way to Sunday. Or if it starts on a Tuesday, make sure Tuesday's the first column and have it end on a Monday. Uh, this doesn't have to look like your calendar on your wall. You just want this to be your pay period calendar. That's all you're worried about. Just make sure that the correct days of the month are lining up with the correct day of the week so that you don't screw up what day you're actually working, what schedule. Now, um, because this is a 2 week pay period, I have a row here for our rate, hours, base pay, overtime, bonus, and total pay for the first week, and the one below it is for the second week, and then the one below that is basically going to add the two amounts together to give us the total hours for both weeks, the total base pay, the total overtime, the total bonus, and the total pay before taxes and deductions. So let's get started. Remember that the cells that you're going to use for your schedule, whether it's the word off or the time 8 to 5 or 9 to 7 or whatever the case may be, make sure that those are formatted as text. If you don't have them formatted as text, when you type in 8 to 5 and then you get out of that cell, this 8 to 5 is going to turn into August 5th. So it has to be set to a text format. If you want to see a dollar sign in your numeric values, then you want to set your column or your single cell to currency. So just to remind you how to turn this into a text, you select the cell or the row of cells, or you can hold the control and select many rows of cells. Just make sure you're selecting the right ones. You have to be kind of careful because kind of bleeds into other rows. You don't want to mess up any other formats. So once you get everything highlighted, you right click, you format cells, you make sure in the number tab that you are in text for that section. And if you want your hours, no, not your hours, but your pay rate and your base pay, your overtime, your bonus, and your total pay to all have dollar signs, you can, in this particular display, highlight the top of all the columns and then right click and format cells and make sure under number that you select currency and the symbol is the dollar sign and the decimal places as 2. Then click OK. Let's see, I think that's it as far as the formats of cells. Let's go with a simple $10 rate. And again, because I formatted this as currency, when I get out of that cell, it's going to give me the dollar sign and 2 decimal places to the right. We're going to have $10 an hour for both the first week and the second week of this first pay period. So let's do the cell for hours. The only things that we're going to do are sums, if conditions, and a couple of very simple equations. So this is just going to be a sum of all the hours in the first week. So you click on the cell and then you go up here to this bar so that you can type in your expression and equals the word sum, an opening parenthesis, and highlight all of the cells that have the number of hours you're going to get paid for. For instance, if you're working a 9-hour day, but you get an hour lunch and you only get credit for 8 hours, those are the numbers that you would put down here. After you select all the cells that you want summed, added up together, you come back up here to your expression bar and you close that parentheses and you click your enter key. So now the function is in that cell. You do the same thing for the second week. I wanted to let you know that unlike the first Excel spreadsheet that I did a tutorial over, this one you can't simply take this, right click it, copy it, and paste it. The reason being it's a different pattern. Here you get 49. When we put the function into 48, it's going up the next row, over 2, and then it's taking the next 7 rows and adding those together. If you take this function with that pattern format and stick it here in this cell, it's going to expect you to go up a row, over 2, and then add these 7 cells. And if you add 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, it will truly give you 49. Well, not knowing what these cells mean, this might be a 100, and you can end up with 139 hours on a paycheck, which might seem like woo-wee, bonus, bonus, but if you're the one paying the money out, you're going to be screwed. So you definitely don't want to think you can automatically copy and paste functions just because this is the second week and it's doing the same thing. It's a different pattern based on this display. So do this manually. Click down here, go up to your expression bar, click equals, sum, opening parenthesis, and manually highlight those hours of the second week. All right. Then go in here, close the parenthesis, and hit enter. Now, down here, this is a sum of both weeks. So we can click down here and do the same thing, equals sum, opening parentheses, and this time we're going to sum these two values. Then go up here and close it, close it and hit enter. Now, where this was coming up here, up 1 over 2, and adding these cells, and this one wasn't the same pattern. This was actually going down and over, so we couldn't copy and paste this function to here. This is the same pattern. This pattern is take the 2 cells above you and add them. So here we can actually take this function and we can put it here and here and here and here, only because we know at a glance that the pattern is exactly the same. We're going up by 2, up by 2, up by 2, and up by 2. We're not going over and up by 2. If we were, we wouldn't be able to copy and paste. So we can take, this is one of the nice instances where you can copy and paste, and it will paste the pattern, so you will get a true expression. It's hard to double click and get out of there. Now let's figure out base pay, and just to double check that we're right before I get into the formulas for base pay and overtime, let's go ahead and put some fake numbers in here. 1 plus 2, 3 plus 3, 10 plus 25, whoa, 10 plus 25, and 100 plus 4. Okay, 104, 35, 6, 3. So those are in fact working the way we want them to. I don't expect you to always want to copy and paste, but if it's this obvious, go for it. If it's not obvious, but you should always double check. This pattern didn't work with this one, and I proved it to you. So just be careful when you do that. All right, let's do the base pay. The base pay for the first week is going to be based on an if condition, and the if condition is going to be based on if they worked overtime or not. So let's go click our cell for the base pay for week 1 and go up in here into our expression line and click equals, the keyword if, and open the parenthesis, and the expression is if the cell for the first week's hours, which happens to be cell J7, if J7 is greater than 40, comma, if that's true, then the rate for that week, which is I7, will be multiplied by 40, comma. Otherwise, if the hours are not over 40, if that statement J7 greater than 40 is false, then the rate will be multiplied by the hours actually worked. So in this case it's 48, but it could be 20. So you don't want to multiply 10 by 40, you want to multiply it by the actual hours worked. Close the parenthesis and hit enter. So now we have the base pay for week 1. Let's do the same thing for week 2. No copy and paste, we're just going to do it manually. Click the cell, go up here, equals, if. Now click hours, then type greater than 40, comma, rate times 40, comma, rate times hours. Close it and hit enter. Let's try the overtime. Overtime is also going to be an if condition based on if you've worked over 40 hours. So go up here in your expression and equals if parenthesis. We're going back to week 1, so click on week 1's hours and then finish it off with greater than 40, comma. If that's true, then the rate for week 1 times 1.5 will give us time and a half. Once you got time and a half figured, then you multiply that times, and you're going to put this in parentheses so that you keep the order of operations correct. And you're going to put the number of hours worked minus 40, so that you're only going to multiply time and a half by the hours in excess of 40. Now, if that's false, then you put a comma and not a period, but a comma, and then you put 0, because if you didn't work over 40 hours, you're not getting overtime. So then close your outside parentheses and hit enter. So there is something wrong. What's happening here? Not responding. Oh, now there it is. Bonus is $120. Do the same thing for week 2. Go up here and manually equals if parenthesis if the hours for week 2 are greater than 40. If that's true, then the rate will be multiplied by 1.5 and also multiplied by the actual number of hours worked, minus 40. Okay, and if you didn't work over 40 hours, you get 0 overtime. All right. Bonus is something you can manually put in. Total pay is going to be another easy sum function. So click it here and put your expression up here. Equals the word sum, and in parentheses, you're just going to highlight what you're going to add. The base pay plus the overtime plus the bonus. And then close up your parentheses and hit enter. Do the same thing for week 2. Go up here and equals sum, because you're summing. And what are you going to sum? You're going to sum the week 2's base pay, overtime, and bonus. Okay, great. Close that up and hit enter. And now we have, if you work 48 hours, you have a base pay of $400. $10 times 40 hours, and overtime is $120. If you want to check that, you take $10 and figure out what the overtime pay is. So you multiply that by 1.5, which is time and a half, and that gives you $15. You're making $15 an hour after you've worked 40. You have 8 more hours than 40 here for the week, so you multiply 15 by 8. That gives you $120. So you see that the overtime was $120 in both weeks because both weeks were the same. Let's give the first week a bonus of $100, and let's do the same. Let's actually give the second week a bonus of $50. So here you see that the bonus column added correctly. 100 plus 50 is 150. The overtime column added correctly. 120 plus 120 is 240. Base pay, 400 plus 400 is 800. The hours, 48 plus 48 is 96. The total pay, 620. If you add these together, 400 plus 120 is 520 plus 100 is 620. That's correct. 400 plus 120 is 520 plus 50 is 570. That's correct. Then finally 800. Now this we might want to use the calculator. 800 plus 240 plus 150 equals 1,190. So all of our calculations are correct. Now, when you get your pay stub, you have a spot here to put your regular pay, your overtime pay, and your holiday pay. You might want to use your bonus column for holiday pay, or you might make another whole column for bonus and holiday if you happen to have a job where you have a commission. You might change the word bonus to commission or whatnot. Then the cell right here used to be three little cells like this, but I merged them so that it would be a single cell. And this is where you want to put the gross amount that your paycheck says you have. This is where you want to put your net. And then your deductions is just a simple subtraction. So I already have it in here, but I'll take it off. I'll take it off just to show you again. Basically, you will click this cell, go up here, and put your equals symbol, and you're just going to put an expression. You're going to take the gross amount that you made, which is the amount before deductions, and go up here in your expression bar and put the minus sign, and then click your net amount, which is how much you get in your pocket after everything was taken out, and then you click enter, and this will show you the amount of your deductions, which this is going to be all the taxes and any other extra, like medical or uniforms or anything extra that's taken out of your check. That will just automatically do the math for you there. Then if you want to figure out what your average per week is, what you would do, you could either do your gross per week or your net per week. I like working with net because I know that's the money in my pocket. Gross doesn't really mean anything because you still have taxes and deductions coming out. I just want to know what's mine at the end of the day. So I would take this cell and I would go up here and I would do equals, and then I would click my net, which is what I'm going to get in my pocket. I go back up here to my expressions and put divided by 2 and then click enter. So whatever my net is for 2 weeks, it's going to divide it by 2. So I'm going to get my average per week. In this case, I have 620 plus 570. It's 1190 gross. If I were to pretend that that was my net and stick 1190 in my net here and click outside of it, it would automatically do the math. 595 per week is my average. When actual was 620 for the first pay and 570 for the second pay, for the second week, that would just give me an average of 595 each. I don't know what this negative number is over here. Oh, because I did the math. I did the math for here. Whatever my gross is here, whatever my net is here, then that's why. Because I have a formula in here. So let me get rid of that and this. Actually, now I took the formula out. This equals this minus this. Enter. So now my formula's back in here. All right, so that's all I've got to show you for this one. The next one that I'm going to do will have my little calendar here for you to put your hours, your schedule in. But instead of having this output, I think I'd like to make an output that actually looks like your pay stub. And it also will include all of the taxes that are taken out and so on and so forth. So it'll be a little more detailed.